Hello, in this tutorial I will be modeling this game object. So let's analyze it first in Krita. So first, I did not make this artwork. You can find this art at this link. So let's proceed to Krita. So right here we see few main shapes. So we see this, and we see the bottom part, and we also see the top part. So these three parts can be easily built using a primitive object. So let's analyze this area. So we can tell this is being used. You can model this with a cube. So to this cube, so you would have an extrude inward and we would have an insert. This is a very simple object to build in 3ds Max. So let's switch to 3ds Max and build it. So before we can start, let's create a reference image so we can reference to that photo. So we can use a plane. So rotated on the y-axis. So this would depend on which axis you are modeling from, so it doesn't matter. And let's activate the material window. So I'm using the old style material window. You can switch to slate if you want to. And let's pick a standard material. So I'm using a legacy material. So this is no longer compatible. But at this moment, we only use it for modeling purposes. And let's add a diffuse. We should be adding a bitmap. And let's first save this image. And let's add it. So you can fix the angle. To 90 degrees. And let's move it to the side. And let's lock it. So in object properties, so make sure you check off show frozen in gray, because if this is not being checked off, it will become gray. So we do not want that. and freeze. So now we cannot select this game object. If you want to access to it, you can use the layers. And from there you can unfreeze it, freeze it, hide it. But in the active viewport, you have no access to it. And that's what we want. So let's go back to layers. Unfreeze it and just move it a little bit to the back. Then freeze it again. And now we have a good reference. So let's build the top part. So as I said, we use a box or a cube. So this is a primitive object. There's not much you can do with it. You can change the segments, the number of segments, and the map coordinates, but aside from that, you cannot do much with it. In order to change it, you can right click on it, then convert to editable poly. And now you have access to tools, to the shape properties, and so on. And you can do any edits that you would like. So right here from the top, you can see it's being shrunk. So let's select face or polygon. Select that face using a scale, then select it in. So this cube is a bit higher than we would like to. So let's switch to the transform tool and move it down. So this seems a bit correct. So let's select the object, the top object level, and then move it up on the z-axis. So those faces. So what is it? It's just an insert. So we select those faces and do an insert. So we can see the option right here. So let's do that, and we do it by polygon. We do not want to do it as a group. And then make it smaller. And if you look closely, it's a bit extruded in. So we can do that. All we need to do is just click extrude and then move it in a little bit. So we can see this is being a transparent face. So here we can detach it. So to do that, we see this option right here, detach. And it's being now treated as a separate object. So right now it's a separate object. So you can apply a special shader to it. You can do anything with it. And let's not forget about the little extrude downward. So let's select this object, change back to polygon, select this face. So there is a shortcut or a hotkey for extrude, which is pressing and holding the shift key and moving down. And now we switch back to the scale tool and we scale it in. and that's it. Now the top object is done. So now let's switch to Krita and look at the bottom one. It's the exact same idea. So we have an inset right here. And we have an extrusion. And same thing here. So it goes all around. So let's build that. We can reuse this one, but let's create one from scratch. So right here, switch back to the top object level, then to the create tab and create a box. Before we create anything, let's make sure this is located at the 0, 0, 0. So let's select the select tool and so let's take a look here. So this is not being centered, so we would like it to be centered. So we can zero all of them out. So since this one has the same origin as this one, it should follow suit. And now let's select both objects and move it up. And now let's create a box. So the way I'm creating this box is I'm holding the control, I'm pressing and holding the control button. If you do not do that, the anchor will change from the top left. If you press and hold the control key, it is being created from the center. Okay. So again, right click and convert to editable poly. So let's hide unselected and focus on this scheme, on this part of the object. So let's hide unselected and let's select the top part and make it a bit wider. So we do need that reference, so let's unhide all. And what we can do is we select these two and just hide selected. So as before, we select the polygon and then we select all those faces and then we do an inset by polygon. And that's it. And then we do an extrude. And let's do it inward. So the extrusion seems a bit thicker. So let's do that. And let's see how it looks like with the top part. Unhide all. And here we go. So from the object itself, from the reference image, this does seem to be, so the extrusion here does seem a bit narrower. So let's select this object and select the polygon and then move it up. And also it seems to be a bit wider. So at this stage it is kind of hard to modify it. So for now let's attach the windows to the object, and we can do that by pressing attach, and then we attach those objects. So they are becoming one object. So how do you modify it without needing to modify the vertices? One of the best way to do it is using an FFD modifier. So I will be using 2x2x2. So we expand on this modifier and we select the control points. So what we want is to select the bottom ones. And now using the scale and scale them up. Good. Collapse all. Also this one seems a bit shorter, so let's make it a bit shorter and move it up. So this is only a modeling practice, so I'm not looking for perfection here. So let's add the top part. So the top part is built using a cylinder and a torso. So let's start with the cylinder, and we can see here with the cylinder is being beveled. So right here we can see some bevel here. And then we can see the circle. So let's do that. So we create a cylinder. So before we move forward, let's change the materials to make it look a bit nicer. So we can activate the material by pressing M, and let's create a new material. So I will be creating a standard legacy. In case you could not find a standard legacy, just go into so the way I know it is you go into compact materials and under modes, so you select standard here, and right here make sure show incompatible is checked. So right now we have this object, and we just drag it to them and close it. So let's select both objects, and we should change the colors to black. That way, once you deselect, it would look a lot nicer. So make sure this is black and okay. So it looks much more presentable. Now let's create the cylinder. So cylinder, we can create it anywhere. Since this is a primitive object, you can control how many segments it can have. Since it will be a lot smaller, it is okay to go smaller with this one. So I'm gonna go with 8. And let's center this object by right click and select the down or up button. That way it will zero it out. So we zero all of them out, and using the transform tool, move it up. So to see the way it's being shaped, because it's constrained to the Y and axis. Okay. So as have we noticed before, so this is being beveled. So what we do is we change it to editable poly, and then we select the face and then beveled. This looks good. Because this is a game object, it's nicer if we can divide it by using the cut tool. So you can find it here or on the side menu right here. So let's make those cuts just to make it look nice. And now we have 4 polygons. Now let's change the materials so it matches the rest, and change the color to black. So we are almost there. So let's create the torso. So we have the torso right here. Let's put it anywhere. Let's make it a bit lower resolution. So let's change it to maybe to 10. And change the size maybe to 8. And then scale it down. Let's zero it out. Sorry, I undid the scale, so let's move it up. So this is still a primitive object. I still do not want to change it to editable poly because I'm not done with the control. I'm not done with the editing yet. So let's rotate this to 9 degrees. So you can see the rotation is being snapped. So make sure the angle snap is on. And let's rotate it on the z-axis 90 degrees so it matches the photo. And let's make it a bit bigger. So the cylinder must be a bit smaller. So let's do that. Let's rotate it a little bit. Maybe make it 55 degrees. Let's move this a bit to the top. Yeah, much better. And now let's change the color on this one or the material. So this one is a lot smaller. Let's make it a bit smaller, yeah. Okay, and let's change the color to black. Very nice. So let's take a look at the reference image. So we can see here what it seems like an ice, maybe broken ice. So how can we recreate that? So we can use a plane, or we can reuse an object, an existing object. So right here we have this plane, so we can make a copy of it. So how do we make a copy of it? So I'm not sure how to make, yeah, I think, yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure how to make a copy of it, so what I'm going to do is just make a copy of the object, and then switch to the polygons. So we select those polygons, and then we invert select, and we should detach. There we go. And everything else we can delete it. And since we have the same origin as the parent one, we can just move it in. So with this one here, we can see it's being, you can do it randomly. So let's switch to the face tool or polygon tool, and we can use the cut, and we can make our cut. Click Q, and then we can delete it. So we can do, so let's delete those, and we just focus to match the reference image. And right here we do the same. Select the cut tool and make your cut. Select the face that you want to delete and just press delete. So right now, so we have an issue here. We need to see triangles and polygons. We can't, so this is not a good design, especially it's not a good idea to give it to developers to include it with the game engine. So in this case we can just use the cut tool to make those edges. So this is okay, because as long as we have 4 sides, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is okay for now. And we do the same here. We make those cuts. And then we extrude. So select face or polygons, select all, and extrude. Extrude a little bit outward. And then we use this to return it back to where it came from. Okay, so what else? So we still have this one. So to see an example of it, so right here, we can use this as a reference. So let's save this. Desktop and then save. And let's activate the layer window and freeze it, and then we open the material window by pressing M and right here the bitmap. We can change this to this one. Okay, so let's build it. So what we can see here, we can see a cylinder and the top part is being angled a little bit, and then we see the axis. So yeah, so let's start with the cylinder. Let's make things a bit simpler. So we create the cylinder. Let's make it into 8 sides, and then we change it to editable poly. So right here we can see the angle. So it would be not a very good idea if we just do a rotation, because you are changing the whole shape of the candle, and this is not true in real life. So what we do is we select the top layer, top object, and then again we use the FFD. Select the control points, select the top control points. So we can see this is not being angled correctly. So let's rotate that, make sure it's I think this seems correct. Let's look at the rotation. So let's zero this one out, and now it's correct. So let's go back to the control points, and we select these two and move it down, and the shape looks correct. And now let's create the axis. So like how do we do that? So one way to do it is, let's do a collapse all, and what we do is we create a duplicate of this one, and then add a turbo smooth. So for now we do not want to make it that smooth, so what we can do is right here, so we can see if you click here you can see the aftermath. So the turbo smooth would be still on. If this is not on, you would only see whichever modifier or whichever layer you're on. So let's click this one here, and let's add a swift loop, and then add to the top and add to the bottom, and select the polygon, and let's create an inset. Well, this is the extrude, which acts as an inset. That's it. So I think it's good for now. I did undo twice because it wasn't constrained correctly. So let's collapse all, and let's switch it to editable poly. And in 3ds Max, they have push and pull. So this is similar to a sculpting tool that you would find in Blender or ZBrush or Mudbox. So we can make things a bit. So we can create this shape that we can see right now. So we can sculpt those details. We can. So right here, let's make sure the view matches correctly what you look for. But we can see like it's a bit too strong. So let's undo twice because we don't want it this strong. And let's change the strength maybe to 0.23, maybe a bit stronger, maybe to 0.5. So this is a bit too thick. We can relax it a little bit. So let's create another one here. Let's change it to pull, and let's relax it. You can also revert to push it in. Okay. So this is good for now. And so what we want to do right now is only take the top part out. So let's use the cut tool And let's make those. And let's delete the excess spaces or polygons. So right here with the selection, right here, you have options. You can use the spray one, so makes it a lot faster. Delete. Delete. Select those faces and delete them. Let's use the spray again. So if you keep pressing Q, it will cycle through cycle through the option. So this is good for now. And now let's make it a bit low poly. So let's select some of those edges and delete them. Delete. So we just want to make it low poly, that's all. Okay, this is enough for now. So this is good enough. So I do see here maybe some need to make some cuts. Yeah, this is good enough. So let's select the top level and then change it to the transform tool, and then let's zero it out. Same thing with this one here, and they become like one object. So let's just move it a little bit to the right, back to the back. There we go. Let's add the bottom part to it. So this one is much simpler. All we need is just a cylinder. So let's switch to the modify tab, then select the editable poly, and let's start adding edge loops. So we have one edge loop, a second edge loop, a third edge loop, and this one we will apply the bevel modifications to it. So add it right here, and we have the bottom one. So let's switch to the edge and then scale tool, and let's start scaling. So this one would be the where we apply the modifier, the bevel one, and this one is the inside, and make sure it's at the same level as this one, and this one is the insertion. Scale it, and move it down. Let's make sure everything matches with the image. Move it up. Select all. Let's make it a bit thinner. Let's add another edge here to make it a bit smoother. So, and right here, that's where we said we will apply the bevel. So or chamfer, sorry. Let's do some more modifications. And let's make this a bit thicker. So use the shift to extrude and move it downward. That's perfect. So right now I think this should be good. So let's hide this one for now. Height selected, and let's move this one inward. Good. Very nice. Let's create another cylinder right here. And make it a bit smaller. Let's make it look a bit dynamic. So we select the swift tool and maybe select that edge and move it out like that. So just to make it look a bit more dynamic. And now let's change the materials. So we press M. I'm going to switch back to the compact materials because the window is a bit smaller and easy to apply a bunch of materials at once. And you can select these and change the color to black. So we can tell the material has not been applied to this one. So we press M again and apply assign material to selection. Good. So let's unhide all. So if we want, just for the visual sake, we can hide those faces. So all we need to do is just right here, hide selected. And same thing for those ones. So we select those faces and press hide selected. And let's move the candle up. And that's it. I think the main objective or the main idea has been achieved. And thank you for tuning in. And we'll see you next time. Thank you and have a good day. Bye.